Morning, everyone. Welcome to Woodstock City Council, December 12th, 2024. This hybrid meeting is being held in person here in council chambers and electronically in accordance with section 238. Need louder? Less loud. This hybrid meeting is being held in person here in council chambers and electronically in accordance with section 238, subsection 3.3 of the Municipal Act and section 16.6.24 of the City of Woodstock Procedure Bylaw. This meeting is being live streamed to the city's YouTube channel, and a recording will be posted on the city's website following the meeting. An agenda of the meeting can be found on the Agendas, Meetings, and Minutes page of the city's website. And all councilors are in attendance tonight. There's no virtual attendance. Great to see a full house. I will remind everybody that this is not a public participation and ask no clapping, cheering, booing, none of that is going on, please, or else I will ask you to leave. All right. It also goes for council, but it goes for everybody in the room. How's that? Tonight's meeting, we did have a closed meeting. I think we started that at 6:26. We started a few minutes early and ended around 6:47 tonight. Councillor Martin will be reading the resolutions this evening. Everything okay? Okay. So, Councillor Martin. Oh, sorry. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest. Councillor Leatherborough.
Meeting date December 12th, 2024. I, Councillor Kate Leatherborough, declare the following potential direct pecuniary interest. Subject matter item 8B and item 14A4. And the general nature of the interest, item 8B, Downtown Woodstock BIA Streetscape Phase 2, 2025 Capital Budget Delegation. And item 14A4, adoption of 2025 capital budget and 2026 to 2029 capital forecast. Councillor motion number 1, as project INF 000138 Downtown Revitalization Phase 2 is adjacent to a business I operate.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none. Any disclosure of new business? Matters arising from the minutes? And that brings us to the minutes. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Tate that the minutes of the regular meeting of Woodstock City Council held on November 21st, 2024, and the minutes of the special capital budget meeting held on November 26th, 2024 be adopted.
All right, looks like we're having a technical issue. So at this point, I'm going to call a pause. And then we'll pick up at that spot, if that's okay with everyone. Yeah, now I'm saying that. No, good point. Take my word. Good. Do we have to go back at all? No, did we miss anything? No, it's on the live stream. It's perfect. Just not prepared. Okay. Pardon me, Councillor Martin. You did name a seconder. Thank you. Does anyone need that reread on the minutes? Saying no. All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. Moving along to the additions to the agenda. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Wismer Van Meer that the following items be added to the agenda. Delegation item 8B, Downtown Woodstock BIA Streetscape Phase 2 2025 capital budget, and the Special Committee and Advisory Task Force reports, item 15A, Community and Social Wellbeing Reserve.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns on those? I'll call a vote. All those in favor? None opposed. Those are carried. No presentations tonight, but of course we do have some delegations. So at this point, I'd like to welcome up, I'm assuming everyone is coming up, Sharon Doherty, Ian Hume, and Metaxas Mikados. Are you all coming forward? Or whoever is coming forward, please, welcome. Of course, this is Woodstock Soccer Club for those watching at home. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the Woodstock City Council, and community members. My name is Sharon Doherty, and I am the president of the Woodstock Soccer Club. And accompanying me this evening is Mr. Metaxas Mikados and Mr. Ian Hume. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you this evening regarding an exciting and transformative proposal for our community, the construction of a turf field at Cowan Park. This initiative is not just about enhancing our recreational facilities, it's about investing in the future of our youth and fostering a vibrant and inclusive community. First and foremost, a turf field offers numerous advantages over traditional grass surfaces. It provides a consistent playing surface that can withstand various weather conditions, ensuring that our youth can engage in sports year-round. This reliability translates to more practice times, more games, and ultimately more opportunities for our young athletes to develop their skills and passion for sport. Accessibility is a key consideration of our proposal. By building a turf field, we are creating a space that is open and welcoming to all youth in our community, regardless of their skill level or background. This new field will serve as a hub for local sports programs, encouraging participation in a wide range of sports, and it also provides a safe and well-maintained environment for our youth to play, learn teamwork, and build friendships. Moreover, the turf field will be an asset to the Thames Valley District School Board, as it can be utilized for soccer, field hockey, and ultimate frisbee games and tournaments. This not only enhances the athletic experience of our youth, but also promotes school spirit and community pride. Hosting these events at Cowan Park will draw families and supporters from across the region, fostering a sense of unity and engagement within the community. I will now pass it off to Mr. Metaxas Mikados.
Good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. My name is Metaxas Mikados, and I serve as Director at Large at Woodstock FC. I'm here today to advocate for a strategic investment in our community's future, the state-of-the-art of a soccer turf field. This isn't merely a recreational facility, it's a catalyst for economic growth, community development, and enhanced quality of life. Woodstock FC is committed to this vision and is prepared to invest a substantial $350,000 up front, representing a significant portion of the total project cost. This investment underscores our unwavering belief in the long-term, multifaceted benefits of this facility will bring to our city. From a financial perspective, turf fields offer significantly lower maintenance costs compared to natural grass, offering long-term savings for the city. Eliminating the need for mowing, watering, and field repair will free up valuable resources that can be allocated to other critical city services. Moreover, a turf field extends the playing season, allowing for increased usage and continued player development. This expanded availability will attract more teams and players, generate additional rental revenue, and stimulate local businesses. By hosting tournaments, additional leagues, and sports for local school boards, we can add another stream of rental revenue, draw visitors to our city, boosting our local economy and enhancing the community's reputation as a vibrant sports hub. The potential for revenue generation doesn't stop there. A high-quality turf field offers prime sponsorship opportunities. By partnering with local businesses, we can secure additional funding to support the facility's ongoing maintenance and improvements. In conclusion, a turf soccer field is a sound investment that will yield tangible benefits for our city. It will enhance our community's quality of life, stimulate economic growth, and position us as a premier destination for sports and recreation. Thank you for your time and consideration. Ian Hume, former national Canadian player and former pro, and also our head coach will finish off our speeches this evening.
Thank you, Metaxas. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and all the Woodstock City Council members. As Metaxas already said, my name's Ian Hume. I'm a former professional soccer player of 20 plus years and a Canadian national team soccer player. After retiring about 5 years ago, I decided I was going to move back to Canada, remain involved in the game that allowed me to live my dreams with the aim to pass on my experiences to the amazing young people that are playing in our program right now. I've been the head coach at Woodstock Soccer Club for just over 3 years and take massive pride in seeing firsthand the growth that our club has and is continually making on and off the field. None of this would be possible without the support of our city and our ever-growing community. In saying this, we still have visions for the future direction of our club, and together I believe that these are more than achievable if we can continue to work together the way we have been. I believe that a turf field in town will open so many options and different avenues for the possible direction of our youth program and would allow what was before a very distant vision become very, very realistic. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for that. Was there more?
We're just going to just wrap up.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The proposed turf field at Cowan Park is more than just a sports field. It's an investment in our youth, our schools, and our community. I urge you to consider the long-term benefits this project will bring and to support its development. Together, we can create a space that nurtures talent, encourages participation, and strengthens the bonds within our community. Thank you for allowing the Woodstock Soccer Club to speak before you tonight, and we wish you all the best for the holiday season. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before you sit down, I'm going to ask if council would like to ask any questions of any of the three delegates. Councillor Schanberg.
Yeah, from the mayor through to the delegation, thanks for the report. I guess my best question is, there's sort of a premier field out there right now. Would it be your plan to convert that premier field into a turf field or a different pitch?
Personally honest, to be perfectly honest, I would prefer not. I think we have one of the best playing surfaces in Southwest Ontario right now, if not all of Ontario, natural grass surfaces. We do have two fields that have not been developed yet from the old part of, I don't know what it used to be called, of Cowan Park, but the ORC. I think ideally that's where we would plan to allocate the field.
We also sent in plans. I saw, hopefully all of you received everything that I sent. It was sent 2 weeks ago, and we actually showed you where we would like to see the field actually put. And it would be very close to the existing new football field, but going in the opposite direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tate.
Just through the chair, just a question, because you and I talked a long time ago. So I assume that the numbers have gone up now from soccer because they went way down, so they're coming back up.
Significantly higher. We're up about 35%, Councillor, and we're growing. You know what the city is like. We've had over 5,000 new South Asian people move into the city of Woodstock. We don't have the fields. We are really struggling. We are at capacity in Woodstock right now because some of our fields are not playable. And so we know that, and we've had many conversations regarding that in the last few years. You know that as well as I do. But we are actually at the point now where we're bursting at the seams, and we absolutely need more fields. And this would only bring in more revenue, and it's going to be an incredible opportunity for the city. It will bring in people from all over as well.
Councillor Schanberg.
Yeah, again, from the mayor through to the delegation, I know you'd mentioned the Thames Valley District School Board or even the London District Catholic School Board, but have you had any preliminary discussions with them whatsoever for any kind of a sponsorship or dollar amount they may contribute to a project like this?
Obviously, that is something that has to be dealt with in the future. Thames Valley, as you know, is under a very strict budget sort of issue at the moment, as is the London Catholic Board. I think if we had gone to them before this regarding this amount of money, we would be in probably not a chance happening. Until they figure out their own finances, I would assume that that will be something that will not even be in the future. We have seen some differences. I am a high school teacher. I am retiring at the end of this year. So for 30 years, I have given my life and soul to athletics within Thames Valley, TV Raw. And I can tell you that they are struggling with their own budgets at this point.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'd like to say thank you very much for coming forward. This is the kind of things we like to see from different organizations here in the city to say what the needs are and let council decide. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any further discussion or questions of staff before I look for a motion? Or call for a motion then? We can do that. I'll look for a motion. Is there a motion on the floor? Counselor Wismer Van Meer.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council receive the presentation from the Woodstock Soccer Club requesting an outdoor turf field at Cowan Sportsplex as information.
Thank you. Is there a seconder on that? Counselor Schattenberg? Discussion or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? That is carried, none opposed. Next up, 8B, Downtown Woodstock BIA Streetscape Phase 2. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I believe I have a presentation. Oh, you're gonna have to give me the instructions here. Okay, is it touchscreen? No. Don't worry, I'll figure it out. I do. Appreciate that. Do I maximize it too? Oh. Dang. Here we are. That's sufficient. Magnificent. Thank you for having me. Before I start, I want to say thank you to all of you here. I know that many of you speak on behalf of and for a number of people, and I know the responsibility that can bring, and I don't take it lightly. So my name is Dwayne Kumala Thomas. I am the operations manager for Downtown Woodstock BIA, and I'd like to thank you on behalf of the BIA for having us here. Our vision is that downtown Woodstock is the heart of Woodstock. Our vision is to make downtown Woodstock a destination of choice for residents and visitors for shopping, dining, entertaining, diverse activations, and cultural experiences. Our directive is to improve and sustain the vibrancy and prosperity of downtown Woodstock through beautification and promotional efforts. In October of 2024, Mr. DeHaan circulated a report showing downtown Dundas Street redevelopment phasing and cost estimates. It speaks to the process and history of the redevelopment of Dundas Streetscape, including the master plan adopted by council in 2022. In March of 2024, Phase 1 was approved, and we are very excited to see construction of this phase begin in spring of 2025. This is the proposal timeline and approximate costs from Mr. DeHaan's report that was brought forth in October. And as you can see, the various phases there and below, you can also see the numbers and the timelines asked. In Phase 2, we see that the ask is 2.9 million. As we move forward, now, some people are commenting on this project being just frills and window dressing, and that is not the case for downtown businesses, not at all. This is the opportunity to create a downtown that is more vibrant and welcoming. Currently, cobblestones are unsafe and costly, quite costly to repair. Those are accessibility issues. We struggle with transitioning from street parking spaces to raised curbs. Light poles are past their useful life and do not allow for any further seasonal decorations. And everything in the streetscape design is intentional. Soil cells to keep trees alive and well, street furniture that encourages people to sit and rest and enjoy, waste receptacles that discourage illegal dumping, flex parking, which can be used for additional activation space for spatial events, and lighting that will create ambiance, and the poles that will provide better lighting, and banners to be hung perpendicular to the street. The road and sidewalk surfaces will be accessible and welcoming to each storefront and be easy to repair. I repeat, everything was intentional. So our asks are quite simple, which is that you keep phase 2 in the 2025 capital budget and keep the remainder of the project in the 2026 to 2029 capital forecast. Furthermore, that you also continue to love downtown Woodstock. Thank you very much.
I think I'm gonna throw this microphone out. Thank you very much for your presentation. Any questions of Mr. Kamala Thomas? Seeing none? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, no resolution is required as this delegation refers to Department Reports Item 14A.4. And yes, perfect. So moving along to consideration of planning reports. 9A, ZN 8-24-25, application for zone change. Mr. Miller, welcome. Thank you.
Good evening, council, staff, members of the public. Application for zone change ZN 8-24-25 in the name of Rao. The subject property is described as Lot 8, Part Lots 7 and 9, Plan 73, Part 1 of 41R328, is located on the east side of Norwich Avenue between Alice Street and Ann Street in the city of Woodstock and is municipally known as 225 Norwich Avenue. The subject lands are designated service commercial in the county's official plan and are zoned highway commercial C4 in the city's zoning bylaw. The requested zoning is a special C4, and the purpose of that is to include funeral home as an additional permitted use on the subject lands. The proposed funeral home use will be incorporated into an existing business located in the commercial building on the subject property, Waring Cremation Services, Inc. The current zoning allows Waring Cremation Services, Inc. to meet with people to arrange for final arrangements and to sell items like urns and jewelry. The zone change is required to permit the use of one room as a hold room, the room required to transfer the deceased from a stretcher to a cremation container. The hold room will only be used for this purpose. No setting of features, embalming, public viewing, or memorial services are proposed to take place on the subject plans. Modifications to the room will include installing an exhaust fan vented to the outdoors and a backflow preventer on the source water lines as per industry standards. Permitted uses within the existing C4 zone include a residential use, a range of non-residential uses outlined in section 14.1.2, and a funeral home is currently not permitted in the C4 zone. The applicant proposes to rezone the subject lands from highway commercial to highway commercial special to add the funeral home. Section 2.0 of the city's zoning bylaw defines a funeral home as a lot, building, or structure or part thereof used for the preparation of deceased persons for burial or cremation and for the viewing of said deceased persons, and may include accessory meeting rooms, chapel, or retail sale of related items. Funeral homes are currently permitted within the community facility zone, and the subject property appears to comply with the relevant zone provisions, including but not limited to lot area, lot coverage, and lot frontage. Section 5.4.2 sets out off-street parking requirements for different uses. Currently, there are 60 parking spaces on the subject property, which meets the zone provisions for off-street parking requirements for the current and proposed uses. Staff are satisfied that the proposal is consistent with the intent of the provincial planning statement with respect to settlement areas as being the focus of growth and development, and with the intent of promoting economic development. Planning staff are of the opinion that adding funeral home as a permitted use within a service commercial use is consistent with the evaluation criteria set out in section 7.3.4.2 of the official plan for adding new uses to service commercial areas. Specifically, as the proposed use will be incorporated into the existing business and no new development is proposed as part of this application, staff does not anticipate any impacts on surrounding land uses or land uses in the vicinity. Further, there will be no changes to utilities, sewer, water facilities servicing the site as a result of the additional use, nor is there any anticipated impact of vehicular traffic on the city or county road system or on surrounding land uses. Planning staff are of the opinion that the additional funeral home as a permitted use is consistent with the general intent and purpose of the official plan. It's planning staff's opinion that the application for a zone change to permit a funeral home as a permitted use is consistent with the provisions of the Planning Act, the provincial planning statement, and maintains the general intent and purpose of the official plan and can be given favorable consideration. As such, it's recommended that the city of Woodstock approve the application in principle for the application. Just to make clear, as we discussed in the public meeting, the C4 zone is a site plan control area. So at this time, this is, even though the funeral home definition exists, which allows things like public viewings and things like that, that's not what's proposed with this application. It's just the hold room. Because this is a site plan control area, should they propose to expand those to include more uses in the funeral home area, things like additions, modifications to the building go through the site plan process where staff can look at the technical details in greater the technical issues in greater detail to make sure that the site would still function should they choose to expand those uses.
There we go. Any questions of the planner? Counselor Schanberg.
Yeah, for the mayor through the planner, Mr. Miller. I guess when you look at the list of some of the zonings, they could be a sort of a recipe list or an ingredient list of 15 or 20 uses sometimes in different areas. Is it possibly best now that there's a new use defined that isn't quite the level of a funeral to be able to make a service like this more readily possible in areas? Because, I mean, times change and funerals at churches and so many other things have kind of evolved over time to be able to sort of think that maybe there's another definition besides using the term funeral.
Through the chair, it's certainly a definition or through the mayor, that's certainly a definition we could come up with. I think the frequency that this issue is going to come up with is means that maybe coming up with a new definition isn't necessary, especially since it's a site plan control area. But if it became an issue, certainly, yeah, we could come up with a new definition of whatever sort of processing of the deceased structures there might be a need for.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you. Looking for a motion on the floor. Counselor Tate?
I'll move that Woodstock City Council approve the application for lands described as Lot 8, Lots 7 and 9, Plan 73, Part 1 of 41R-3284 in the city of Woodstock to rezone the subject property from highway commercial to special highway commercial to include funeral home as an additional permitted use. And further, that any comments received from the public were reviewed and considered before the decision was made in relation to the planning matter.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Counselor Leatherborough. Discussion or questions? Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. So next up, we have consideration of correspondence. 10A. Counselor Schattenberg.
I'd like to make a motion that Woodstock City Council supports the resolution received from the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus supporting the solvethecrisis.ca campaign, and further that the resolution of support be circulated to the Right Honorable Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, the Honorable Sean Fraser, Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities of Canada, the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honorable Sylvia Jones, Deputy Premier and Minister of Health, the Honorable Paul Calandria, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the Honorable Michael Parsa, Minister of Children, Community and Social Services, the Honorable Michael Tibolo, the Associate Minister of Mental Health and Addictions, the Honorable Ernie Hardeman, Oxford MPP, and Glenn McNeil, the Chair of the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder on that motion? Counselor Martin. Discussion? Would you like to discuss it? Counselor Schanberg. your motion.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Back in the October meeting of the Ontario Big City Mayors, there was a lot of discussion around that. And when the next time the Western Ontario Wardens Association itself actually met, the discussion really was around provincial and federal funding and governments addressing the growing mental health addictions and homelessness crisis. And the fact that healthcare in particular is a provincial issue, and that the municipalities already, quite frankly, as we all know, have too high a burden on the local taxpayers for things like homelessness. And I know there was an announcement from Doug Ford today that sort of relates to this as well, but it just really means that we should be another municipality joining forces with others to sort of say that it's time to sort of support the campaign called the solvethecrisis.ca campaign.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. Third time was a charm. Thank you, Councillor Shanberg, for bringing this forward. I really do appreciate that. Association of Municipalities of Ontario for close to a year has been asking the province for what they've called a social and economic prosperity review, which would be an evaluation of that cost sharing of our social conditions between the province and municipalities. As you've mentioned, the big city mayors have put together a campaign called Solve the Crisis, and now we have WOWC, Western Ontario Wardens Caucus, which is 15 municipalities in Southern Ontario, covering most of Southern Ontario, have also joined force. We have repeatedly in the last 2 years put forward requests to the provincial government, circulated correspondence, asked for support, asked for funding for the government to take action, and still it feels like there is nothing. Well, nothing beyond the promise of a $200 check in the new year. Recently, we received correspondence that Children's Aid Society here in Woodstock and across the province are underfunded, and that is contributing to homelessness for youth. And right now, 9% of our homeless in Oxford County are youth, which is egregious. Ontario Works and ODSP rates have been under a 6-year freeze, causing a lot of people to live in what people call legislative poverty. Public health has been under a 3-year freeze. We see over and over and over again the limitation of funds that is contributing to homelessness, mental health, and addiction crisis right here in our own community. Back in August, the province promised $378 million for heart hubs, which is a well thought out solution to this program, but that was August and we still don't have an announcement on where the first 19 or 20 heart hubs will go. In fact, just last week, the Minister of Health said there is a lot of interest in heart hubs. Well, there is a lot of interest because there's a lot of crisis. And so I would suggest that rather than a $200 check in the new year, I'd rather see $3 billion put towards heart hubs across the province to solve this crisis. So these are just a few of examples of why we're here, limited funding that cause us as municipalities, increased police calls, increased fire calls, increased ambulance calls, increased crisis at the library, in the downtown, and increased demand on services like Operation Sharing, Salvation Army, and well beyond. And so I think we as council, we as a city, we have the opportunity to be a part of a solution rather than being a part of a problem, and require this province to step forward with the funding that's needed to address this crisis.
Thank you. Councillor Tate.
Through the chair, I have a little bit different take on that, as the Ford government announced quite a bit of funding today. So there's 75.5 million to further support homelessness prevention, 700 million investment in homelessness prevention programs as well. The 378 million is, as mentioned, for the heart hub. I think the premier's finally got the message from all the mayors, thankfully. We had sent all kinds of correspondence to the federal government because we need a change in the jurisdictional and judicial system, which is also contributing to all this. So I'm glad to see the province has stepped up, and now we need the feds to step up and help with the other part of this, to help with the municipalities. I mean, it's never enough, but we have to remember there's only one taxpayer. So we can ask for as much as we want, but this crisis, as if we had to do it as a municipality, would bankrupt us. So I'm glad to see this money come forward.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Leatherborough.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I won't be supporting this correspondence, and it's certainly nothing, nothing against the mover or the seconder. I think the Solve the Crisis campaign has certainly evolved since its inception in August. I think it was really growing in a positive way. I believe there was 240 municipalities that had signed on out of the 444 municipalities. And then this correspondence that we are reviewing that's on the floor right now is actually from Tuesday, October 22nd. So it does show you how fast things change, as today is December 12th. But with that being said, I do think that there was some misstepping as it surrounds the Ontario Big City Mayor's Caucus and Solve the Crisis campaign. I can certainly get behind the piece in the correspondence that says the province should officially make homelessness a health priority, or at least, deem it a healthcare crisis along with a housing crisis. So for the reasons of the complex announcement today that I, for one, have not fully engaged in or understood. Some of the headlines I was reviewing is that could severely impact our first responder budgets as we move ahead, which are already substantially growing with this crisis. So again, nothing against the mover for bringing it forward. I think there was great intention, or the seconder, but I will not be putting my name behind this correspondence.
Okay, anyone else? Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Just through the chair, just a general comment. This one has been a hard one for me as well. There is also some pieces that have been aligned with the Solve the Crisis campaign that I haven't agreed with, that have been kind of tacked onto it. So this one's been a tricky one for me as well. Similar to what Councillor Leatherborough just mentioned as well, I have not had a chance to really dive into what announcements were made today. We've had enough to worry about on a municipal level that I haven't put much attention into the provincial level. I'm kind of in the same boat. It's tough to get behind something when I'm really not fully educated on what is coming forward from our provincial government at this exact time.
Anyone else? I'll say I'm certainly going to support this myself. I think I'm going to continue to advocate at all levels of government, and that's in essence what Solve the Crisis is. It's advocating, it's getting together as groups, as one big loud voice. I don't always expect to agree with 100% all the time, but at the end of the day, if it opens doors and continues talks, I'm certainly going to support it. I did watch today's announcement, I guess live while it was happening. I'm very excited. Thank the provincial government for, I think, first time kind of recognizing some serious steps and some more serious funding is needed. As municipalities, we are simply ill-equipped to deal with a lot of what we're currently facing, and my fear, it's only getting worse. So no matter what, at the end of the day, it's for good. If we continue on the path we are right now, we're going to fail. And hopefully things like the Mayor's Caucus, the Warden's Caucus, my apologies, and the Big Mayor's Caucus again is going to get more attention than some of us smaller municipalities. I'll certainly support and be invited in the room in order so we can say what we are facing here in the city of Woodstock. Any final? Councillor Tate?
Yeah, through the chair, just for the public's information, because they may not be aware, but the mayor meets with provincial delegates quite often, provincial officials, so he carries our message. So we have a direct conduit, so it's very helpful, and I think you having that relationship's made a difference, and they listen, so thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Anyone else? With that, Councillor Lauder?
I will say that I'm certainly in support of this, and I did listen to part of what Premier Ford had to say today, and I support what he's trying to do, and especially giving, I think, our police forces more authority, and I think that's something that we've said quite often. Well, they can't, their hands are tied, they can't do anything. I think that this is going to help that, and I hope that we can get all the care that could possibly, and that's what he's wanting, is to help these people. The one mayor that spoke was an addict years ago, I think Samashwa, and he was very forthcoming on what he went through and how he's made a wonderful change in his life. So I support this resolution.
Thank you. Anyone else? With that, I'll call a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. No presentations from staff or approved agents tonight, no mayor's report, no councillor reports, but of course we do have some department reports. For those following along at home, we're at 14A, Administrative Services. 14A.1 is now 2025 interim tax levy. Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. I'll move that Woodstock City Council approve the interim tax levy for 2025 and that the necessary bylaw be brought forward for 3 readings.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Tate. Discussion or questions of staff? Seeing none, all those in favor? None opposed? That is carried. Next up, we have 14A.2, temporary borrowing bylaw. Looking for a motion on the floor? Councillor Schadenberg.
Yes, the Woodstock City Council authorizes the temporary borrowing to a maximum of $5 million for the year 2025, and that the necessary bylaw be brought forward for 3 readings.
Thank you. Second by Councillor Wismer Van Meer. Discussion or questions? Councillor Schadenberg.
Yeah, I guess in the mayor, either through to our CAO or our finance department, what would be the, I guess, Cole's notes explanation on exactly how this works and why this has to be done now before the end of the calendar year?
Your worship, through to the councillor's question. This is for operating funding for early part of 2025 prior to the billing of our interim tax levy, just to make sure that we have funds to pay our bills. And it's required annually to be passed and approved through a bylaw.
Of note, I think the report did state also that last year, or I guess earlier in 2024, we did not use the money whatsoever. Is that true?
Your worship, through the councillor's question, yes, we have not actually had to use this operating borrowing. I'm not sure we ever have since I've been here, so 30 plus years.
Now that's called good budgeting and planning. Okay, any other questions? With that, I'll call a vote. All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. Next up, 14A.3, items be carried over year end. Looking for a motion on the floor. Councillor Leatherborough.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council approve the request to carry funds over the year end as listed for various capital and revenue fund projects, and that these funds be recognized as a prior year commitment or a reserve contribution as appropriate.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Lauder. Discussion or questions? Seeing none, call a vote. All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. That brings us to 14A.4. Adoption of 2025 capital budget and 2026 to 2029 capital forecast. Councillor Schadenberg has the first item. Number 1, Councillor Schadenberg.
I guess if I would just want a point of order before we start on this, just to clarify something. These are actually presented in the order that they were received at the clerk's office. Just want to confirm that. I believe that's the order that they're coming in on the agenda.
Yes, through your worship, through to the counselor's question. They don't all come into one specific staff member. They're shared amongst myself and Mrs. Campbell, but the order that I received them, yes, is the order they were sent over.
I just make it as a preliminary thing, and then I'll go into what my first motion is, only because of the fact that obviously, if somebody says yes to one and no to number two and yes to number three, it really does have an effect that when number four rolls around, how are you going to vote on that based on the fact that number one was the first one that was discussed? That's all. And I know I sent mine in first, I thought, but obviously it's number one on the agenda, so. That project INF 00138 downtown revitalization being financed from debenture be removed from the 2025 capital budget and the 2026 to 2029 capital forecast.
Okay, do you have a seconder on that motion? Councillor Lauder? Would you like to speak to that, Councillor Schonberg?
Yeah, no, I certainly would. And I think what we always do is take a look at what are the top priorities within a municipality. What are the, if you were to create a top 10 list, where does something fall under something that really has to be done? And in my beliefs, based on everything else that's still going on Museum Square and this TriStar liquidation building that has yet to be taken down, I think we're doing things somewhat backwards if the downtown revitalization or streetscape plan in fact is even necessary. And the reason I say that is because everything sort of underground, the infrastructure, the water, the sewers and everything like that are in fine condition, and none of that will be replaced. When we have various other streets in the city that I've listed off quite numerously at other meetings. For example, Wellington Street, we still have to go all the way from Ingersoll Ave all the way across the main street. I don't know if that's 9 city blocks or 10 city blocks, but it's about the same distance as what we want to do on Dundas. To be able to sort of redo that. And that would be everything, sidewalks and infrastructure, everything underground and the roads themselves. So the one thing I did anyway for preparing for this was to talk to the asset management plan from the city of Woodstock, which was only approved back in June of 2024. And quite frankly, I put more weighting to that, for example, than the strategic plan that starts, certainly it's concrete terms, bad pun right there, but it's also very hypothetical in some of its ideas, a strategic plan. Whereas the asset management plan, which came out in June of 2024 by Basil Agram, who's of course a City of Woodstock employee, really does go into detail of some of the ages of some of the sewers on some streets and what the priorities certainly are for the City of Woodstock. And then we look at the budget themselves and we see things that could have been done in, say, 2026 get pushed back to 2027 or 2028. And then my thinking only is one of the reasons this is being done is because a non-essential thing is getting done in 2025 and 2026, which really doesn't need to be done at all until a further down the line. I think Museum Square is top priority, and that's what we had originally discussed back when this whole downtown revitalization began.
Thank you. As a seconder, would you like to speak to this? Councillor
Yes, I
Lauder?
would. Thank you. The downtown streetscape, I support the motion that's been on the floor. If this is to proceed with construction over the next 4 years, the disruption on the downtown would be devastating. This does not include the removal of the TriStar building or any work included for Museum Square. As I've stated before, it was always about Museum Square for me. And in the past years, the properties from Museum Square to City Hall have been purchased for approximately 4.5 million, with the last one being finalized in 2026 in order to expand the square to its intended capacity, being able to hold functions which would bring people downtown and visit our stores and cultural facilities. The streetscape reconstruction was added in 2024 from Light Street to Wellington. Now, for 2025 and going forward, it includes Vansittart to Beale in the amount of approximately 17 million, all to be debentured. Again, this does not include any work to enhance the Museum Square or expand City Hall as has been intended. I cannot in good conscience approve this project when we have a perfectly good street being torn up, when our asset management report, which I have discussed with our asset management analysis, indicates the poor condition of some of our streets, along with facility conditions over the 25-year horizon. These projects seem to be moved further out in order to proceed with this project. There was to be a master culture plan done for the downtown some time ago, and then it's never been done. As the Premier spoke today during the questions after his announcement, the thing most top on people's minds is the cost of living. This project is not taking that into consideration when it is important that we maintain our roads and current facilities as opposed to adding more debt. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Bear with me because I've kind of got notes everywhere. I will not be supporting the motion. I don't think that's a shock to anybody. Just a few key points that I've grabbed over the last week. In 2020, the Woodstock Downtown Development Plan was received by the previous council. In that, we see that the Downtown Streetscape Sustainability and Asset Management Plan from 2014, our grade was poor. Throughout that report, it continues to tell us how bad the accessibility is in our downtown, mentioning not only the sidewalks, entrance to stores, the concrete planters that are there. It gave us some key tactics, saying high priority versus high priority with short timing, which means either the high priorities that should be done at the top of the list. Streetscape master plan was number one. Downtown coordinator on there as well. Marketing and recruitment strategy, maintaining dedicated police and expanding mental health outreach. They mention and they talk about how the downtown Woodstock is the primary business, cultural, and administrative center of Oxford County in this as well. In that, just to kind of touch on what Councillor Lauder just said, the redesigning of Museum Square was actually only a medium priority on a medium timing, which means that the actual streetscape was rated as a higher priority over the redesign of the Museum Square. In 2022, just prior to the election, the last council accepted the streetscape master plan, where only one councillor at that time voted against it, where that councillor just felt that it wasn't that council's job to accept this and thought that the incoming council should be doing that. All of the councillors that currently sit here today that were on council at the time accepted that master streetscape plan, spoke very highly of it in support of it, and also said that they hope that the new council got up to speed on this and moved forward with it and did not delay it any further. And here we are delaying it again.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Tate.
And just, I was on that council, and I will reiterate that it could have been said that in the report, but the focus on the council was Museum Square. That's why we spent $6 million on the building. So not necessarily following exactly what the report said, because to do the Museum Square, you're going to have to rip out some of the streets. So the focus was always Museum Square. From the discussions we had at council, and I was there, so I know that's what the process was. So just some other comments. Our city is at a crossroads, and how we decide to move forward will have a major impact on the people of Woodstock for years to come. I can't stress enough the asset management report that we received. The report clearly shows the consequences of previous budgets that did not address existing buildings, roads, fleet, vehicles, and staff. By using strong mayor powers, we were committed to increased housing. When you have a certain amount of buildings, you have capital and renewal costs, example, fixing roads, repairing roads, maintaining the sewer and water infrastructure, and so on. All that needs to be budgeted for. In this year's capital budget, I noticed again a number of repairs that have been pushed out to future years. Right now, we have buildings with leaking roads in poor repair, and staffing levels that are affecting basic services that the residents of Woodstock expect. We already have added a number of streets and parks, and we have 3 more parks coming into our hands in the next couple of years. I've always said that residential does not pay its way. So where is all the money going to come from? It's going to come directly from the taxpayers. And I'll remind everybody, taxpayers are not just people who own homes and businesses. They are people that rent and rent pricing depends on tax rates. So when taxes go up, so does rent, so everyone is a taxpayer. It is very important to watch what is happening in Canada's economy. It is not good. I just want to use Toronto as an example in regards to the housing issue. They've been so dependent on housing for taxes through DC charges and land transfer payments, and now housing has come to a standstill. They have not budgeted for the money they will need and are warning of a very large tax increase. We are heading down the same road. We're going to need more staff, more equipment, example, snow plows, street cleaners, and we've got to maintain the buildings that we have so we don't have facilities that fall into complete disrepair. A clear example is the Lions Pool. There's no point in building new if we can't maintain what we already have. In order to maintain what we have, we will have to cut out the extras because we are still going to have to pay for all the repairs, and it's a direct increase to the taxpayer. At the end of the day, what does the taxpayer expect? Good roads, snow removal, leaves picked up, grass cut, and well-maintained rec facilities delivered at a reasonable cost. Yes, and a new $100 million complex and a $20 million for the new streetscape sounds great, but who's paying for it? If we continue on this path, we're going to make it unaffordable to live here through high taxes and high rents. CTV actually singled Woodstock out a couple of weeks ago. They noted our median income is low compared to all other municipalities, and we have the highest taxes around. Not sustainable. All of us around the table are committed to the downtown. None of us want it to become worse and fail. We wouldn't have spent $6 million on buildings to develop Museum Square if we did. I've already listed of all the substantial downtown projects in previous meetings, and now we are spending again. Sidewalk safety has been emphasized by councillors and citizens alike. It will cost $500,000 to remove the interlocking brick and pave it, and I support that completely. I am supporting the motion from this budget because the city does not have $20 million, is why it's getting debentured. Spending $20 million on a road that was just done less than 10 years ago, and we're deferring road maintenance and roof repair that we need now. When a person puts off fixing a leaky roof because they want a granite countertop in the kitchen, very few people would call that responsible. If council spends money we don't have, the taxpayer is going to call us responsible, or not responsible either. And can I have a recorded vote?
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Schoenberg.
Yeah, I just want to add that the asset management plan listed 9 objectives. And I'll start from the top because obviously the first one would be just inventory, knowing what you've got, everything from the fleet of vehicles you've got to art galleries, to roads and sewers you've got in the city of Woodstock. So obviously inventory is the top of the list. Valuation of today's value of that entity, that item, life cycle analysis, service targets, risk and prioritization was number 6, but prioritization, therefore, I would think when you start looking at what's above it on the list, becomes very important, and that's prioritizing what has to be done or what should be done first. And was mentioned about the doorways and accessibility. Well, I think to some degree, Councillor Tate mentioned to fix some of the poured concrete sidewalks or impressed concrete sidewalks. But I think the community improvement plan is still something that a lot of businesses, now I know it has to be recouped the dollars in there every year, and we do that at budget time too. But to have an interest-free loan or possibly even a grant to do some of the work, and there's many businesses in downtown Woodstock that I think have terrific signage and have terrific exteriors and facades to their buildings that are very welcoming for customers. But sadly and unfortunately, I got top of my head, I could list 6 or 7 buildings that do not. And in each case, the landlord or therefore with permission through his tenant should get on the community improvement plan to improve the buildings. And we've had all kinds of talks, and Brad Hammond through the Economic Development Office through the CIP plan to sort of say, well, here's what we expect for consistency and signage. And there's still new stores that are opening up that I think fail as far as what they've got for signage on their building. I'm not going to mention any in particular, but it's still ongoing. If you want to attract people downtown, it's the business's responsibility, I think even more so, than what it would be for city council to come up with, spending money on something that doesn't necessarily need to be done.
Thank you. Counselor Martin? You haven't spoken yet.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. I won't be supporting the motion. I think that as a council, we have to be fiscally responsible, but we have to balance that out with our strategic vision for our community. And I think it's going to take a great amount of leadership to accomplish those two things. And we have a choice to either all get on the same page and accomplish that together, or continue to be divided on how we accomplish that. So for today, I won't be supporting the motion.
Thank you. Counselor Lauder, I think you're next.
Thank you. It's just a comment. On Tuesday night, I was downtown to an art gallery meeting. And when I come out of there, I want to thank the BIA and who has lit up our city for Christmas. It was absolutely beautiful, and there were all kinds of cars. I don't know what was going on Tuesday night, but there was hardly a parking spot around. So I just want to thank the BIA for the job that they are doing.
Thank you. Counselor Wismer Van Meer.
Just one more comment through the chair that I did have notes all over, so I apologize. But we talked about sidewalks and how we can pour concrete. But when we go back to this report that we received in 2020, the reason our accessibility is failing is not because of the cobblestone necessarily. It's those concrete planters. It's not wide enough for accessibility of some wheelchairs and some other aspects that need to get through there. Lighting was failing as well. And this is going back to 2020. So 4 to 5 years later, that's going to be changed as well as not enough access to get up on the sidewalk. You have to go to the end of the street, the end of that block, to be able to get up onto a sidewalk if you have mobility restrictions, if you're relying on potentially a wheelchair, a scooter, et cetera. So, it's more than just fixing cobblestones or fixing the aesthetics of the sidewalk. Accessibility goes far beyond that in our downtown, which we are failing. And the accessibility committee presented to us and talked to us a few months ago about their concerns of what's happening. So to me, that's part of what I'm taking into consideration. This isn't just about making it look pretty. This is about making it inclusive for everybody. And if people who are living with mobility restrictions have concerns and we're being told that these exist, I think it's only responsible to be listening to that and fixing those problems.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'd like to add on to this conversation. It's no secret I've been a big supporter of this for a very long time, and I continue to be. Let me be clear. Strategically, this has been on council's as a priority for 10 years. I've sat in this room as a councillor and of course now as mayor. It has been talked about and wanted for many, many years. Asset management has been clear that those sidewalks and areas that Councillor Wismer Van Meer discussed, the curbs, are badly needed of repairs. And then, of course, we bring in the accessibility pieces. Lights need to be upgraded, yes. Electrical will be upgraded underneath the sidewalk areas. Yes. I'm going to continue to vote in favor of this. Again, I think this is very important to any city. I'd like to challenge anyone to just close their eyes and picture their favorite town or city here in Ontario or any place in the world, and tell me that their downtown isn't one of the reasons why you like that city or town so much. I think ours is tired. It's been talked about for a very long time that it needs to be updated. People need to feel safe and comfortable and take pride again here in the city of Woodstock. I've not had a single business owner come to me and say they don't want this to happen, even though I know they're going to go through some hardships with some construction in front of them. As far as the costs are concerned, I think this council already voted on doing it very smartly by separating it out into little bite-sized pieces to do with the least impact possible to businesses, but also as a taxpayer. I want to make sure you get your best return on investment. And investing in our downtown, I think, gives everyone pride. And for that reason, I am going to vote in favor of it. Against Councillor Schattenberg's motion, because I would like to see it continue on. Before I call a vote, anyone else? Yep. Oh, right, thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. So we start with the mover of the motion, Councillor Schattenberg,
Yes.
Councillor Tate,
Yes.
Councillor Wismer Van Meer,
No.
Mayor Accioni,
No.
Councillor Lauder,
Yes.
and Councillor Martin.
No.
That motion fails 3-3.
Thank you. Moving along. Councillor Schattenberg?
Yeah, the project PKS 00073 disc golf redevelopment be amended by moving the $40,000 in the 2026 forecasted budget into the 2025 capital budget for a total of $60,000 to complete the project all in one calendar year, that being 2025, and further that the $40,000 be financed from the reserve for capital projects.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Wismer Van Meer. Discussion, would you like to speak to your motion, Councillor Schattenberg?
Yeah, I just think anytime we do any kind of a repair or a fix on something, it's best just to be able to go ahead and do it all. And this disc golf thing is something that I'm on the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority Board, so it's difficult for me to say this, but I will say it. It's something the city of Woodstock assumed control of through our lease with the UTRCA. And so it was the UTRCA and of course what's now called the Woodstock Disc Golf Collective that have really done a good job maintaining it over the years. But now that it certainly needs to have improvements, that the city of Woodstock should just go ahead and do all of it. And I guess my question would therefore would be to Brian Connors. What specifically is the reason why these were two separate items to begin with, at 40,000 and at 20,000?
Your worship, through to the councillor's question. It was broken into two because the first part would be consultation and a consultant changing the course itself. And then the second part was going to be the actual physical changes to the tees and tee boxes. I have spoken with staff and they have told me that they could do this in 1 year though.
Okay. As seconder, would you like to speak to that, Councillor Wismer Van Meer?
Through the chair, I just want to thank Councillor Schattenberg for bringing this forward, and I think I echo that from a lot of the folks who play disc golf. I had a few people that I not only work with, but speak with regularly that were asking me to please consider this one very highly. And it's funny that when we had the presentation at Capital Budget and we were talking that Mr. Connors was highlighting some of the suggestions for the changes there. Instantly, before I even mentioned anything, somebody addressed whole whatever it may be. And I'm sure there's some people in the gallery I know that are disc golfers that can probably answer which one it is, but they knew right away which one needed to be fixed because of the safety issue of discs going across walking paths. So this is a sport that's not new, but it's really picking up steam. It's something that I'm actually hoping that I can get out and try next year because maybe I have a better chance of that than actual golf. So I think that this just, it's great to see this on here because it's a sport that can be enjoyed by any age. It's a great family sport. It's a great sport with friends. So this is why I'm supporting it, to hopefully just get this thing moving a bit quicker and getting it up to that standard.
microphone. Counselor Tate. Oh, all right, Counselor Leatherboro.
That mic is tricky. Yeah, I'm not sure if this was already mentioned. I apologize. I was a little delayed coming into the room, but I just wanted to let the public know that there is a report on disc golf further down into our agenda, which we will get to, but I did have a couple emails inquiring about disc golf. So always learning more things, but just the fact that it's been around for 20 years and then just highlighting Counselor Schattenberg's motion. And I just think that it's a bit more of a in-depth detail as to where this money's coming from and what it will do. So just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. Counselor Tate.
Yeah, through the chair, I just wanted to comment, so the public knows they are very responsible. These people, they come around and they clean up where they are, and so I have no problem getting this all done in 1 year. So thank you for bringing that forward.
It's working now. Anyone else? I'd just like to say I'm certainly going to support this. I think pulling it ahead 1 year is least we can do, if nothing else, for safety concerns. When I learned that, and I shouldn't say that, I've actually played the course. I know you throw across a walking path area, but it was definitely highlighted as a safety concern. That totally makes sense. And thank those players that do go out there, because I've never seen any garbage out along there yet. I think they're very respectful, and hopefully they're going to enjoy the new course. Anyone else before I call the vote? All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. Next up, we have item 3, Counselor Tate.
That project BLD 00147 Lions Pool demolition be renamed to Lions Pool renovation. And further, that the 2025 capital budget is increased by 1,825,000 financed from debenture to bring the outdoor pool back into working order.
Thank you. Is there a seconder on that motion? Counselor Lauder? Discussion, Counselor Tate as a mover.
First, I'm going to address a couple of the repeated comments, arguments that were against it. One of them was the parking. Lions Pool's been in the same spot for over 70 years, and I've never once, all my years on council, have ever heard a complaint on parking. Another one is, well, it's a lot of money for the summer months, and I'll admit I fell into that. So when we were voting on it, I thought, yeah, that's a lot of money for 2 months or 3 months or 4. But then somebody reminded me, we spend money on lots of summer sports, baseball, tennis, soccer. And in this budget, 600,000 for new pickleball courts. And also, I realized the cost estimate was done 18 months ago. So the price tag for 2 million, I fully understand the quote could be higher, although I understand, talking to some of my clients in the construction field, the costs have come down somewhat for construction in all lines because building homes has stopped, and finding people to work has it's more manageable. And I'm also very confident that if there was a shortfall, fundraising is a very viable option. And I've already had a discussion with a large donor who is watching to see what we do tonight. No guarantee, but he's very interested, and I'm to let him know as soon as we're done. And from the public I've spoken to, I'm also confident in the greater public in regards to fundraising, because I talked to a number of people and a lot of people are on board. After the public came forward with their presentation, outlined all the other municipalities that had an outdoor pool, I realized we had made a terrible mistake not spending the money years ago and currently at this facility. I think the city over the years has done a disservice to this facility and not spent the money to keep it running smoothly, especially when a large part of the funding came from the public. The same thing happened, excuse me, it fell in disrepair, and we didn't spend the money. Initially last year, we were going to do a new pool. Realized that was too expensive. So I have to say there's been, I've quoted a number of times from the book written by Kelly Reach about obsessing children. and the importance of any activity we can engage them in. The Lions Pool was always a place you could go exercise and socialize, which is very important to our children and youth to this day and age. And I always like the location because it's the center of the city. So we have to get out of the mindset, everybody, driving everywhere. It's somewhere that is very walkable. Encourage people to walk. Get on your bikes. Get there. It's a good location because you can reach it from anywhere. And I want to thank Susanna and her group and my neighbor for questioning me on it when we originally voted on it. So they did all this research, which included their presentation to council. And I was actually embarrassed that a city this size does not have an outdoor pool. I've never believed spending over 5 million was necessary. Now we have an opportunity to give back to the community for just 2 million. And I want to quote from the recreation needs study, which we just got, which I also noted above and reinforced. Nearly 1/3 of children and youth aged 5 to 17 are obese or overweight, which was an increase from 23% in 1979. Almost 2/3, 64% of adults over the age of 18 are obese or overweight, which is an increase of 49%. And finally, one last comment from the consultant, which I think is extremely important, which affects this facility. Income can be a significant barrier to participation in organized sports where equipment, travel, and rental fees result in greater cost to the participant. Financial assistance programs, they are available, but it still doesn't help. Woodstock's, as I noted before, median household income is lower than the county and the province, suggesting that residents may be less likely to participate in costly leisure activities. Affordability is a key concern for many households as recreation is one of the several spending choices for discretionary income. So swimming is a cheap and excellent activity where kids and adults can be social, but also get the much needed exercise we are lacking as a whole. And I know growing up, I never went to the indoor pool. I went to the outdoor pool in the summer because that's where you want to be. So for $2 million, or it could be slightly more, I think it is a great investment in this community because the community invested in it originally. So once again, I want to thank the group that came forward because I will admit I was wrong. And after you came forward with all that information, I was like, wow. So, and my neighbor, Julie, she asked me a couple times and I had read the report wrong. So when she questioned me, I went back and read the report. So thank you very much.
Thank you. As seconder, Councillor Lauder, would you like to speak to that?
Thank you. The Lions Pool, I support the motion as has been indicated by the Swimmers Club. There has been a reduction of aquatic facilities with much needed removal of the wading pool. That's coming forward, or I guess it's in the process now, and no longer an outdoor pool, even though the new state-of-the-art splash pad has been added, but it serves only a certain segment of our community. And if you haven't been down there to see it, please do go because it is really a state of the art. I realize with the projected population growth, there will be the need for an indoor pool, but growth and funding will be the big deciding factor as to when this will occur. At the present and hopefully long term, with the rebuild of the Lions Pool, it will provide our citizens with an outdoor facility for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Schonberg.
Yeah, thanks. I know Councillor Tate alluded to fundraising. So I always say Google is my friend. This time microfilm at the library is my friend. It cost $38,000 to build Lions Pool back in 1947. The Lions Club raised $21,000 of that. So the other $17,000 came from what was called the Swimming Pool Trust, which meant that people were saving money and they were collecting money as a fundraiser to build the Lions Pool back then. And I just think that's very important to remember. And back then, under 10, you could swim for 5 cents. And over 10, it was 10 cents to go for a swim. But really, if you look at inflation, the last time I checked, going swimming at Southside Aquatic Center is only $2.75, so it's still reasonable.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Through the chair, just some comments. I can't support the motion as it is worded right now. I would I've spoken to enough staff now. I've had multiple conversations, I think Mr. Connors, as well as maintenance, aquatics maintenance staff who have been taking, this one staff member's been working on Lions Pool for 20 years or so. And that individual's just not confident that 2 million is going to be enough, especially with the lack of accessibility in the change rooms. And it extends past mobility. It also, we're talking about youth and making it inclusive. There are too many young people that don't have a safe space in that building that need to have a safe space to change, prep themselves to go swimming. And that doesn't present itself in the current Lions Pool. Now, I'm not saying I'm not completely saying no to this project happening. I'm not saying I'm completely saying no to renovating. I can't make a decision based off of a report from 2023 when staff are just not necessarily confident that we can say this is the cost when we don't know what it's going to be. I would prefer to see this deferred for a report to come back from staff with an actual cost to what everything's going to be. That's including getting the pool, getting the change rooms, getting the restrooms, getting everything up to par. Somebody that relies on a wheelchair shouldn't have to use a porta potty at our outdoor pool. That's just disgusting, in my opinion, and degrading. And I'm not going to be okay with getting this fixed if that's not addressed. So for me, all of this needs to be put in, the change rooms being brought up to speed, the restrooms being brought up to speed, everything the pool needs to run and know that we can make this a viable amenity in our community. So for me, having those dollar figures in front of us allows us to make the most accurate and most beneficial decision going forward. Because if the price tag's getting high, then why are we not looking at potentially building something new at that point? So I want to see a report back with an accurate number of what it could cost. But there's some procedures that would have to take place before we can go through that, so.
Thank you. Councillor Martin?
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. I won't be supporting the motion, and I'll speak to why. We talk frequently around this table that we have exceptional staff, and I completely agree that we do. And they're the subject matter experts. My degree might have been in recreation and leisure studies, but it doesn't mean that I'm an expert 30 years later in outdoor pools. Staff have repeatedly brought forward reports and recommendations that this pool is beyond its end of life, that it has been limping along for years, and that we have water capacity at our other existing facility. As a municipality, we have to pick a path and we have to stick to it. We have a vision for our community. We have an arena needs study that is underway that identifies future water for our community, with that price tag being included in our 5-year capital project. I think it is unfair to the community to raise false hopes that this albatross of a facility will rise from the ashes and be fantastic again, because it's an unrealistic expectation, and it's misleading to the community. This pool is well beyond its life capacity. It's time to look forward and plan forward for a new facility in a future down at Cowan Field.
Did I see hand up? Okay, Councillor Leatherbaum?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. As this is a capital budget motion, I have obviously looked at the capital budget and the forecast. I also watched the meeting from August to refresh my memory of how that discussion went at that time, as well as the presentation. And I do still steadfast along the lines of like that advocacy is really important at any time and as we go forward. But when I look at this motion as a capital budget motion, and just some of the things that I've heard around the table, public transit is the first thing that comes to mind. I remember how challenging the budget was, the revenue fund budget, our service levels, how challenging that was, and looking at Sunday options because we don't have Sunday transit. And we couldn't do it because it was too expensive. And our city has grown. I think that's a common theme tonight is that our city has grown. We can't keep up. The cost of living is so high, and we're all tasked with a really difficult task. But public transit, my kids play basketball on Sundays and they have to use a high school and a public school. And the amount of families using a cab company to go to and from, like that has to be really expensive because we don't have public transit. And I don't mean to get emotional, but public transit is one, future fire hall, police building expansion, civic arena is another example that we are going to Band-Aid that potentially through this capital budget. But just to have it chug along another 5 years potentially, because I'm also hearing how low we are on ice. And so I'm really conflicted with, sure, false hopes, or in August, there was no talk about Lions Pool renovation. And of course, we can change our minds. I don't think that's something to dispute. But all of these other increases and looking to that future rec center, I cannot tell you enough that when I hear, well, it'll be 10 years or it'll be 15 years, next term of council, whether I'm here or not, it must be expedited. We all understand that in the year 2024. And it is a very daunting task, but I'm just saying that I'm passionate in the sense of like, I do give this budget process my full attention, as do I this role. But there are so many other factors that introducing Lions Pool again, when I really believe that that rec center needs to come online sooner rather than later for many other facilities. Library is another one. Library is another one I hear a lot about, and what happens to that space. So these are more comments than questions. I was going to ask Mr. Connors if he was confident with that quote. So maybe I will go back to that question if you're confident with the amount in the quote. And I'll leave that there.
Your worship, through to the councillor's question. I can't say that I am confident in the quote, as it was an older quote that the company would not stand behind because it's past its expiry time. So yeah, long answer short, I would think to be confident, we would have to go back and get another quote for the entirety of the work that would be proposed.
Thank you. Counselor Tate?
One final comment, it's not an albatross. So this report, if you go back and read the report from 18 months ago, it's a complete new facility, and the change rooms were included for accessibility. And in the report, it's got a lifetime of 25 years. So I don't think we're giving false hope. A lot of municipalities have outdoor pools, so it's kind of disappointing to hear, but everybody has their choice and their decision. But this was not a fix. This is a complete redo of the pool. It would be brand new. And this new complex out the north is millions and millions and millions of dollars that we have not budgeted for. This is $2 million. And as I said, I talked to a major donor in this area who was very excited about it. So disappointing, to say the least, but and I'll ask for a recorded vote.
Counselor Leatherborough?
Through you, Ms. Mayor, I do want to be respectful in the sense that it is unfair to say there is anonymous donor because I have not seen anything. Again, I am respecting differences in opinions, but I do know that we did not even entertain see you at the movies based on this anonymous donor, and that was actually viable. So I don't want to give the wrong perception. I've obviously answered as to why I'll be voting the way that I am, but the anonymous donor, that's terrific. And I hope there's other projects if this doesn't go forward, but I have not seen anything related to an anonymous donor. So that is no disrespect. That is just to state the fact that it's a bit unfair to hear that.
Thank you. Counselor Tate?
No, and through the chair, and I appreciate that. It just, I can't say his name because he wanted to know once it's done, but that's fair. And you're right, we did do that. And I had a discussion with Ms. Reed afterwards, and that was a mistake that we did not going through with that. So we make mistakes all the time. We made a mistake originally when we didn't support the Lions Pool, but see what happens going forward.
Counselor Wismer Van Meer?
Through the chair to Ms. Humphries. Procedurally, I know that we did chat about this, but in this situation, if there's appetite to hold off for an actual report from staff to know what the actual dollar figure is going to be. We can't make an amendment to the current motion. What is the option for deferring?
Your worship, through to Councillor Wismer Van Meer. Typically on a motion, we could make what's called a motion to postpone, and we could delay a motion out until further information comes forward. However, this motion is enshrined within the capital budget. So not being able to make a decision today impacts that capital budget. It's also further complicated by the fact that it is a strong mayor budget, which means that amendments must be voted on by council within 30 days of council having received the original budget, or the budget is then just automatically deemed adopted. So in that case, my suggestion would be if council wanted to delay a decision on this and pursue a more fulsome cost estimate, to similar to what we did last year with the streetscape plan, would be to withdraw the motion that's on the floor and actually pluck this out of the capital budget and request a staff report instead.
Councillor Wismer Van Meer, continue.
I would assume that that's something that Councillor Tate would have to do, is withdraw the motion at this point to do these next steps, potentially with a motion to defer this or to postpone it.
Your worship, through to Councillor Wismer Van Meer, yes, that's correct. The seconder would need to agree and there would need to be unanimous consent of council.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tate?
Just a question. So if we vote on this and it fails, can there be later request from staff for a report and it come into? No, it can't because it's in the, never mind.
Yep. I know, I saw you figuring it out. Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Through the chair, it's just a general comment. I know that there are councillors who are not in favor of this, and that's perfectly fine. We all come to this circle for reasons, and this is one I've struggled with very much. I just feel like for me to do my due diligence, I at least owe it to this project to know what the exact dollar figure is going to be to have this up and going. And I think I can sleep better at night knowing that having that in front of me will allow me to make a decision that I'm most comfortable with, knowing very well that 2 million could not be enough. If there's fundraising, if there's donors, that's fantastic. That helps bring the final number, that whatever it comes to be, it could bring that down. I also just think I owe this to the folks who are passionate about this, just to say, here is what it's going to cost us for sure. And this is how and why I'm going to vote the way I do with that number. Right now, not knowing what that number is, I just can't make that decision. And I do agree with what Councillor Leatherborough has said. There are so many pressing things. Transit on Sundays is easily one of the things that I think is such a crucial thing that we have to really put into consideration. But I guess for me, it's like, here's the number, here's what we have. So I'm just asking if council would consider this next step so that we can make an accurate decision based on what this renovation is going to look like.
Anyone else? Seeing none? It's no secret. I've been a big proponent for Lions Pool for a very long time. 10 years in these council chambers, and every single year up to the last 2 years that it's been closed, one of the first reports we always got every single spring was, did it open? And what's it gonna cost us to keep it going that year? 75 years ago, it was probably the perfect location, probably had enough parking spaces, and we all can't argue that Van Sittert certainly wasn't as busy as it is today. I don't feel it's in a good spot. No matter how much sentimental feelings I have with the pool, as I grew up going to that pool as well, and I brought my daughters to that pool. At the end of the day, at some point, you have to pull a Band-Aid and do it. And I think this council was clear when we did that. We had to make that tough call. Personally, I don't support a deferral. I think this has been going on for so long. I would much rather see the money spent in a few examples that were given tonight. Transit, that would be money enough to run transit for a few years on a Sunday. There's so many more things, and I want to apologize to, I know there's a lot of passion towards Lion Pool, and I'm certainly torn emotionally on this decision, but at the end of the day, I think my responsibility, just like each one of these counselors, is to vote on the item that I think benefits the most people here in the city of Woodstock. And with our needs like they are, there are simply way too many things. 2 million plus could give more residents. And for that, I won't support it. Any other questions or comments before I call the vote? Councillor Leatherborough.
Just through to Mr. Connors there. Thinking about, again, bodies of water, the future rec corner, and obviously the public engagement coming to the public engagement coming to the public in the new year. I'm just curious again around this timeline of like 10 years, 5 years, whether it's water, whether it's a basketball court, whether it's an ice rink. You know, is there any way to kind of obviously reduce that time would be up to council's discretion. I don't know if it's a CAO question or you, but ultimately what I'm saying is that I would like to know your thoughts on how you foresee that playing out. Obviously funding and dollars will be a factor, but just I can't seem to wrap my mind around 10 years is 2 terms of councils. And that's why I kind of said in my comments that it should be of top priority for us and the next term and so on. So yeah, I guess I'm just wondering if you had anything on timelines as it relates to the future rec park.
Your worship, through to the councillor's question. Staff can provide metrics as far as how much usage there are, if there's waiting lists, how many people aren't being served, that sort of thing. So they can deal with the operational metrics, but really that like questions of timeline, especially when you're talking about a multi-million-dollar, that's a governance piece, which is solely at council's discretion. So I couldn't sit here and take the place of elected officials to say when it's going to happen. So.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So I thank you for taking that really loaded question. So I guess I'm just trying to really massage out my final decision of just, I'm not in favor of a deferral either, because I really hope that this group, although we may land differently on Lions Pool, I hope you know that your advocacy as a parent is really going to be needed in that future rec park. And I think I've had conversations with you back in August and now today. And I don't want that to be forgotten, that it's super tremendous that when people are coming together to build communities, that it doesn't stop here, which I know you won't, but I really foresee like the leverage you've created in our community. I really see that being applied in the future rec corner. So those are my final comments.
Thank you. Councillor Tate.
Yeah, through the chair, and I'm not going to withdraw my motion, and just, I know there maybe is a concern it's more than 2 million, but this council went ahead and supported a $5 million outdoor pool. So I have to remind you, this is going to be a brand new facility. It's not a Band-Aid. And I'm going to tell you, it's going to be a long time before we're going to be able to afford anything out at that other end. I know what Mr. Connors is saying, we don't have the metrics for it and we don't have the tax base for it. So to me, this was the best of both worlds. We can get this activity for the children, for the public at a reasonable price. And it's a brand new facility at $2 million. If it's a little bit more, I get it. But I think it's super important for the community, especially when it was community driven, and it's still community driven. I think that's what's the most important thing with my job is I have to remember why I'm here. So initially, I was really concerned about the money being spent, and I think that's why I didn't take more notice of it. And then when you came forward and let us know all the other communities that have it, and I was like, how does a municipality like us not have that? We have the opportunity for $2 million to have that facility. So not going to withdraw my motion because I think the money, we supported a $5 to $6 million one, so I'll leave the motion as it stands. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Maybe, there we go. Just an additional comment. And I don't mean this to be disrespectful, but it's not a brand new facility, unfortunately, because it's still in the same space. It's still in the same spot. And I know that parking is something that keeps being reiterated, but staff, and those are the people I trust. They're the people that are there day in and day out working at this facility. And they are really concerned about the parking. We have 12 parking spots. 2 of those at least are for accessible parking. We have to have staff parking there. We're down to, maybe 5 to 6 parking spots at most. I know it was brought up, there's other places within the city, the art gallery, the library, the museum, City Hall that doesn't have parking. Well, those are all within a block or 2 of a municipal parking lot. So this is not, unfortunately. So it's not a brand new facility. I don't think it's fair to look at it that way because it's not going to be a brand new facility. It's rebuilding what's already there. And because parking is a concern for staff, we can't address that. We don't have anywhere to go to address that at this point, so.
Councillor Lauder, yes?
I still support my decision to support this resolution. I think that if this fails, we will not have an outdoor pool. And if we're waiting on another pool, it's going to be a long time because of the millions and millions of dollars that is going to cost. We were told how much it could cost to have a 2-pad arena and the pool. And I don't see that that's going to happen in quite some time. So that reason, I still support what I second on that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah, I'd like to make a final comment myself then. Even if the building was brand new, even if we rebuilt Lions Pool completely, dug it up, put a new one in, same footprint, I can't support it. Again, at the end of the day, Van Sittard Ave is way too busy. And I have got numerous complaints over the years as a counselor of that location. If this anonymous donor is willing, we've got lots of projects, lots of other projects around the city of that needs. Possibly wish any donor would have come forward before we get to this point. It's been closed for, well, it hasn't run for a year plus now. And it's unfortunate, but I don't see it surviving. And for that, any last comments before I turn it over to the clerk?
Thank you, Your Worship. We start with the mover of the motion, Councillor Tate.
Yes.
Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
No.
Mayor Accioni.
No.
Councillor Lauder.
Yes.
Councillor Leatherbarrow.
No.
Councillor Martin.
No.
And Councillor Schattenberg.
Yes.
That motion fails 4-3.
Thank you. Before we move along, I just again want to say thank you. We really appreciate public input. Love where this is coming from. Wish I could support it. But to be clear, thank you everybody for the work that was done. and showing council the, importance to some of you. So, moving along, Councillor Tate, item number 4.
Project INF 00091 York Street Recon, George to Adelaide for 343,000 be moved into the 2025 capital budget from the 2026 capital forecasted year to be financed from debenture.
Is there a second on that motion? Councillor Shanberg. Discussion, Councillor Tate as a mover?
This is one of those projects that was supposed to get done and for some reason it got pushed out again. And going from the asset management report, we're getting way behind on our roads. It's the #1 complaint I get from people is the condition of our roads. So I don't think it's responsible to keep pushing out all these projects that should be getting done in a short time frame. As we push this out, then we're going to push something else out, then we're going to push something else out, and these are all repairs. So, reason for my motion.
Thank you. As seconder, Councillor Shanberg, would you like to speak to this? No? Okay. Any other further questions or debate? Councillor Leatherbaum.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I won't be supporting this motion based on just, again, the budget process. Obviously noting that during the 2024 Revenue Fund budget deliberations, council approved an annual contribution to a road reconstruction reserve in the amount of 400,000. If we'd like to top that up when the time allows it in the new year, we'll debate that at that time, but I won't be supporting these road projects, but this one to start.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. I would agree. I'd rather top up reserves by 343,000 rather than to issue debt. So I won't be supporting the roads project at this time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Shanberg.
I guess I could say I do have something to say now. It's amazing that through our asset management plan that we talked so much about it during the streetscape master plan discussion, when we were spending over $2 million on something that didn't necessarily need to be done, when there's something that does desperately need to be done, you're voting no. I don't get it.
Councillor Tate.
Just a reminder, this was in the budget and it got pushed out, and I'm not going to comment why it was pushed out, but it's concerning that we're pushing stuff out further. I think it was, I don't even know, about 10 years ago, I topped up the reserve and it's still not there. It's never going to be there. Look at the asset management report. It's extremely important we maintain what we have, because we're going to end up piling up. So all these extras that everybody wants, all these complexes and stuff are never going to get built because they're going to be so far behind on these roads.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Martin.
I'll just reply that for me, the challenge of issuing it with debt is that with debt on these projects, you actually end up paying for it 1.5 times in total, as opposed to if we were to put it into debentures, you would pay for it once, but rather than 1.5 times. So that for me is the biggest challenge, is we're asking people to pay for it and then pay for it extra on interest. So.
Thank you. Councillor Tate.
Yeah, and just through that, I think that was the argument with the downtown streetscape. So we're paying $3 million a block, money we don't have, and we're debenturing it. So it's the same thing. This is for an actual road that needs construction. So I understand, but we are never going to have enough money in the revenue. And I think that's the whole point of the asset management plan. We don't have the money. Even if we top it up, we still don't have the money because we're so far behind. So I understand, and I understand what you're saying. But you've got to go back to that asset management report. We're in trouble here. And it's gonna come back and bite us. And I think it's really important, maybe not the next 2 years, but the other councils, it's gonna come back and bite them. And I don't want to leave a city that's way far behind and nothing gets done except for repair. So that's the point of it, because when you have to look at last year's budget, the budget before, and all the projects that are getting pushed out. We have roofs leaking in our buildings. So we have got to start paying attention to this stuff, or it's going to cost a lot of money.
Counselor Wismer Van Meer.
Through the chair, just a general comment. I wasn't really sure where I was going to land on these pieces and, what Councillor Schattenberg said before, kind of, it's hard when you have an order of things and you have to make decisions in that order. I wasn't sure where what would be with this. I'm okay with doing these projects going forward, seeing we've seen some potential dollars not being spent. I agree with Councillor Tate, if these roads need to be done, if this has been pushed out, obviously this is something that's in need of some work. And thanks to Mr. DeHaan for taking the time to find the projects that we're going to work for city staff to be able to get them done. So I will support this motion in that reason.
Thank you. Counselor Martin.
Thanks. I don't disagree with you, Counselor Tate, on that we're getting behind on roads. I guess I viewed this as if we took the money on these 2 or 3 projects and put it into reserves this year, it would allow next year to pull projects forward without having to debenture them. So that was the angle that I looked at it on. I don't disagree that they have to be done. The method of funding is where we disagree.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'll just say, I am not going to be voting in favor of this. Fully respecting it is something that needs to be done at some point. I trust staff and trust their asset management of kind of determining when things need to be done. And then, of course, the financing aspect, with interest rates still high, they're coming down, which is fantastic. But still to this time, the added cost is just getting a little bit much. With motions in the future of putting more to reserves, I would certainly be in favor of, but that's not what we're talking about today. So anyone else before I call the vote? With that, all those in favor? Opposed? Sorry, was that 4-3? Motion passed. Is that right? Yes. Motion passes. Next up, Councillor Tate, number 5.
That project INF 0079 Powell Street Recon, Salter to Parkinson for 518,000 be moved into 2025 capital budget from the 2027 capital forecasted year to be financed from debenture.
Thank you. Is there a seconder on that? Councillor Lauder, discussion. Councillor Tate is a mover.
Yeah, just a comment. Staff did the work and they put it in the budget and somebody else moved it out of the budget. So moved it ahead. So I'm gonna go with what was advised. I'm gonna go from what's the asset management. And we just debentured earlier in the meeting a large amount of money. We're talking about 518,000. And I'm gonna say it again, if we don't do it, we're gonna be debenturing a lot more money because it's never gonna catch up in the revenue fund budget as noted in the asset management. So I know it has to be debentured, but it's 518,000 for a road that needs to be done that staff had originally put in the budget to be done, and then it was moved. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Leatherborough.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. DeHaan, are you able to speak to that, like the moving of it? Just because I too was looking at it obviously from 2027 to leap backwards to current day. If you just had any more information to provide on this motion?
Your worship, your worship through the counselor, if I remember correctly, during discussions with in staff, that project was pushed back due to financing reasons.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one else, I will not be supporting this for the same reasons as the last one. I think for debenture reasons and interest costs, carrying it I think where it is and using as much reserves as possible at the time would be beneficial instead of debt. Last chance before I call the vote. Counselor Schenberg.
Yeah, I apologize, Mr. Mayor. I was looking through my book to see what the projected cost in 2027 would be. And of course, numbers could always change, but it was 518,000 for the future forecast for 2027. Would it therefore, I guess the question is to Mr. DeHaan, be less than 518,000? Could it be under $500,000 to be able to do it now instead of waiting 2 more years?
Your worship, through the counselor, I can't accurately say what the price will be in 2 years. All I can tell you is chances are it's not gonna go down. Does that help at all?
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else before I call the vote? Then all those in favor? Opposed? That motion carries 5-2. Next up, Counselor Lauder.
Thank you. I'll move that project INF 00059 Adelaide Street parking lot rehab for 200,000 be moved into the 2025 capital budget from the 2026 capital forecasted year to be financed from debenture.
Thank you. Is there a seconder on that? Counselor Schenberg. Discussion, Counselor Lauder is a mover. Would you like to speak to this?
Thank you. The Adelaide Street parking lot was scheduled in the 2024 capital budget to be done in 2025. Now with the proposed budget, it's been moved to the 2026 with an increase of $50,000 projected. After requesting information in an asset management meeting, I saw the state of the lot with pictures, and I've also visited the lot, and I'm bringing this forward for consideration. We cannot keep pushing items further out when the need to upgrade is before us. This is the only remaining parking lot in our very downtown in this condition. The other lots, I am told, only require crack sealing and to give them more years of longevity.
There it goes. Counselor Schenberg, as a seconder, would you like to speak to that? Seeing none. Anyone else? Counselor Wismer Van Meer.
I will support this motion. This is actually one of the parking lots I use quite frequently because my hairdresser is right there. Thanks, Frankie. But yeah, it's not great. And I actually fell in that parking lot myself. Thankfully, I'll blame it more on myself than anything. I was not paying attention and looking at my phone while walking. But there are some slopes and areas that are not safe for pedestrians getting to and from their vehicles to make their way out onto Dundas. So I agree. I think that this is one of the parking lots that definitely needs to be addressed. And by no means, the falling thing was definitely my fault, but there's just no barriers to stop people from walking in certain areas that they shouldn't be. So I think that these are reasons why this parking lot really needs to be bumped up.
Thank you. Counselor Tate.
Yeah, through the chair, I agree, the same reasons. And I mean, we want people coming downtown and we want a parking lot that's in good shape for them when they come downtown because parking is limited. So I will fully support this. And as you said, it's gone up 50,000 already from when it was supposed to originally be done. So this is the problem you have. You keep putting stuff off and it gets to be more and more money.
Thank you. Counselor Martin.
Just a quick question to the city engineer, Mr. DeHaan. What happens when a parking lot like this goes under construction? What would the time frame be for a reconstruction, and where do people get redirected specifically for this lot?
Your worship, through the counselor, generally construction would take about 4 weeks, give or take, depending on weather days. And in terms of reconstruction, we wouldn't necessarily specifically lead them to one lot. However, we did do a parking lot survey last year, and we found our lots generally at about 50% capacity. So there is enough room in the other lots to take some additional parking.
Thank you. Anyone else? I will also not support this simply because it is forecasted to come from reserves and what's been set aside already for next year. By pulling it ahead, we've already added an extra $1 million to the budget just with the most recent road work, and would much rather see us not debenture as much as possible. So for that reason, I will not be supporting this. Though recognizing that next year it'll get done if it stays in the budget. Anyone else before I call the vote? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion carries 4-3. I guess that brings us. Is that? No, that's the end. Yeah. This one right here. Oh, did I read that? Did I read that? That's not a motion. This is what we, gotcha. Thank you. So that brings us down to a final first off, is there any other motions I'm not aware of? In saying that, I'm looking for a motion on the floor under final motion. Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
That in accordance, moved by myself, that in accordance with section 284.163 of the Municipal Act 2001 and section 7.4 of OReg 530/22, Woodstock City Council shortens the amendment period for the 2025 capital budget from the prescribed, am I reading the right one? I'm sorry. Prescribed 30-day period to 25 days. And continue on from there?
No. Amendment period for the 2025 capital budget from the prescribed 30-day period to 25 days. Okay, is there a second on that motion? Councillor Lauder, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? That is carried. So if no further amendments are proposed, I have a mayor's direction here that I'll sign providing notice of my intention to not veto any amendments made to the 2025 capital budget. This will be sent to the clerk and council and posted on the website as required by the legislation. And as such, the 2025 capital budget as amended is deemed to be adopted. That brings us to 14A.5, Housing Needs Assessment. Looking for a motion, Councillor Leatherborough.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council approve the funding of up to $20,000 for consulting services from the contingency reserve to complete the housing needs assessment required as part of the new 10-year CCBF funding agreement, and further that any unspent funds be carried over to 2025.
Thank you. A seconder? Councillor Tate? Discussion or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? That is carried. Next up, engineering. 14B.1, purchase of a replacement transit bus. Looking for a motion? Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council waive the tendering requirements of Municipal Code Chapter 376, procurement of goods and services, and authorize the purchase of a 2025 Nova Transit bus in the amount of $639,952 plus HST.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Counselor Schattenberg? Discussions or questions? Seeing none? I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Nothing from cultural services, but of course, parks and recreation. Now we get to 14D.1 about disc golf. Looking for a motion on the floor. Counselor Wismer Van Meer.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council receive the report regarding disc golf as information.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Counselor Lauder, discussion or questions? I think this was debated a fair bit already tonight. So with that, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? That's none opposed. That is carried. Next up, we're talking about planting already. 14D.2, 2025 annual bedding plant order. Counselor Schanberg.
The Woodstock City Council gives notice of a commitment to $53,767.43, including HST, in the 2025 budget for payment for the supply of floral materials from Floral Express, Inc.
Jeez. Counselor Tate, second the motion. Any discussion or questions? Counselor Tate.
I just want to comment because some of the staff is here. Our staff did an amazing job of the gardens and all the city properties, and they worked with very, very short staff. So I hope to see in the operation budget, maybe some more staff because we're going to need it. But thank you for all your work. You do an amazing job with what you have to work with.
Agreed. Anyone else? No, I just totally agree with that. Thanks, staff. I mean, the city beautiful is just that. It's absolutely beautiful. Love when we have people coming to visit us here at City Hall and comment on driving through our city to get here. Always recommend them stop in at Southside Park and of course our plants along the way. And for city's sake, last year, the city purchased 18,976 plants. So it's quite a large order. With that, any other questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. Nothing from economic development tonight, but we do have clerks. 4F1 confirming bylaw 2024. Looking for a motion. Counselor Lauder.
Thank you. I'll move that Woodstock City Council refer the confirming bylaw to the bylaw section of the meeting.
Thank you. Second by Counselor Martin. Discussion or questions? Seeing none. All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. From the Chief Administrative Officer, 14G.1 Strategic Priorities Midterm Update. Counselor Leatherburn.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council receive the Strategic Priorities Midterm Update Report as information.
Thank you. Second by Counselor Martin. Discussion or questions? Counselor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Adjani. What a fantastic report of updating where we've been and where we're at and where we're going. I really appreciated the in-depth, even though it was bullet point, it was so in-depth to cover off where we're at on our strategic plan. The only thing that I would add to it is I would love to see some sort of pictorial version of the strategic plan, whether it's here in chambers, whether it's out in the hallway, just kind of as a physical daily reminder of where we're going. So really appreciate the report.
Thank you. Counselor Lauder.
Yes, I really found that report interesting, and you couldn't say it any better than what I could. And I just appreciate all the work that has gone into that and where we're at.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'd like to echo my fellow council members here that this is an excellent report. It is a great report card. In fact, I've printed it with, I'm going to make notes along the way as we go. It is really interesting to see where this started to where we are today and keep moving forward, to keep checking things off the list. So I thank the Deputy CAO for writing such a good report that makes it simple to follow along for not just council, but I think the general public can appreciate that as well. I think it's well written. So with that, any final discussion or questions before I call the vote? All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. Nothing from human resources tonight or fire services, but we do have public works, 14J.1 procurement of street sweeper for public works. Looking for a motion on the floor. Councillor Lauder.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council approve the participation in Canoe Procurement Group of Canada for cooperative purchasing of project EQU 00043 PW, replace street sweeper 386,478.21, exclusive of taxes, funded from the Equipment Reserve Fund.
Thank you. Is there a seconder on the motion? Councillor Wismer Van Meer. Discussion or questions? Seeing none, call a vote. All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. And nothing from information technology tonight, but we do have, moving along to number 15, special committee and advisory task force reports. 15A, looking for a motion on the floor. Councillor Leatherborough.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council authorizes the remaining account balance from the Community and Social Wellbeing Reserve to be carried over to 2025.
Thank you. Is there a seconder on the motion? Councillor Wismer Van Meer. Discussion? Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Just for public knowledge and for our counselors as well. I hope that everybody's read the report, and if you haven't had a chance to read it, just go back and have a look at it. There's a reason why this request is going through. We have requests in front of us for the monies that we have left over. Unfortunately, as a task force committee, the group, we haven't been able to have a meeting since we've received all those, and there's just discussions that need to have around them. So it's something that we're looking to get started right at the beginning of the new year to hopefully be able to assess those. We have the task force committee for a reason. We have the people at the table from the community, the different partners and resources and organizations within the community for a reason. So it's good to have their input on these, I think, going forward, so that we as a council make a decision based off of the feedback we're getting there. So it's just moving this so we can have that conversation as a task force with those folks, and then if felt it was in favor or it's supported, then coming back to council at that point.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'll definitely say I'm in favor of this. The requests are in line with what we've recognized as priorities this past year of food insecurities and youth. So you definitely fall within, and looking forward to getting together as a task force to fully discuss this. And then, of course, we will be bringing it, as always, in front of council before final decision to spend the dollars. So with that, Councillor Leatherborough.
Just one comment to add at the end of the report highlighting that it does say, work will then begin on should this pass, work will then begin on defining terms of reference for the task force and creating guidelines for future funding recommendations, which I think is important, as is everything else in this report and what you've both said.
Yes, thank you for highlighting that. I probably should have said that myself as well. I'm really happy to see where the task force has been moving, progressing, doing more with what we have with council support. So I thank council for that. With that, if there's nothing else, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. No notice of motions that I'm aware of, no new business I'm aware of. That brings us to draft bylaws. Councillor Martin.
Thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Schadenberg that the following bylaws be given a first and second reading. 9722-24, a bylaw to provide for an interim tax levy. 9723-24, a bylaw to authorize the borrowing of up to $5 million. 9724-24, 97-24-24, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 8626-10 as amended ZN 8-24-25 225 Norwich Avenue. And 972524, a bylaw to adopt and confirm all actions, proceedings of the Council of the Corporation during the period December 15th, 2023 through to December 12th, 2024.
Thank you. Any discussion on those? Or questions? Sorry. All those in favor? None opposed. Those are carried. Councillor Martin.
Thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Lauder that the following bylaws be given a third and final reading. 9722-24, 9723-24, 972424, and 9725-24.
Thank you. Last chance. Any questions, concerns with those? All those in favor? None opposed. Those are carried. That brings us to the questions and addresses portion. And tonight, we're going to start with Councillor Tate.
I want to give my condolences to the Ludington family passing of Ron. Most of us here know him. That's why our flags are half-mast. He was a councillor for 2 terms in Woodstock. I can't do him justice. I known the family a very, very long time. Craig and I grew up together, and he'd let me know on Sunday he had passed away. But I just want to read a little short thing from his obituary, and just for council's benefit, they were one of the original families from Woodstock, and where their business is, it was, they originally always owned that, and the McDonald's is there, but their business is there. So he served 2 terms on city council for the city of Woodstock in the late 1970s until the early 1980s. Ron was extremely proud when in 2018, the city of Woodstock established a park in the north end of the city as Ludington Park. And I have to tell you, it made everything in his life just, he was so happy about that. He has given so much to the community that we were able to do that. So when Craig had first mentioned something to me, and I was like, yes, of course, sent the information to Mr. Connors, and he did qualify for it. So I'm glad we got this done while he was still alive. Quite often what happens, we do stuff after people pass away. So it was a good recognition. The first sign was damaged. He got the first sign and it's in his garage. So just condolences to the family, and he will be missed. And just another comment, Christmas is coming up, so it's a great time for most people. There's a lot of people we have to remember. It's very difficult, so reach out to those that you don't know, or even your neighbors that you see they need help. Donate, give, it's very important. In my neighborhood, we had somebody going through all the cars. It's that time of year, they go onto the porch, so just be careful. Somebody destroyed my inflatable Santa. So on a happy note with that, if anybody knows Mayor Peterson, he is an amazing baker, and he let me know last night he was doing all this Christmas baking. So feel free to stop by at his house and pick up some free baking. He said he was watching tonight, so hopefully he's prepared.
Careful what you wish for, Mayor. Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
I will keep it short and sweet. It's been a long meeting. It's the holiday season, so I hope everyone has a great Christmas and a happy New Year. Tomorrow would have been my grandfather's birthday. Sorry. And the Breda Tower. We don't have the tower this year, but it's not just about his Christmas tree. People have lost their jobs as well, so I'm going to be known as a crying counselor. That's what I'll go down in history as. But if you have pictures or memories, put them all over social media. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, I'll never forget that tree. Counselor Shanberg.
Yeah, I'm not sure if everyone caught that, but that was the Perina, the top of the Perina and Woodstock that her grandfather did the lights on the top of the tree. A couple of things I wanted to mention. I went to the Salvation Army Woodstock Community Church and Community Ministries page on Facebook. Could they have a longer title than that? Anyway, I saw a picture of the mayor and his wife Sarah on there doing the kettles. And the reason I mentioned that is you can call Janice at 226-228. Make sure I get the number right by putting my glasses on, 5495. And there's lots of information. You can Google it on Facebook to their website to be able to still volunteer. Tomorrow between 3 and 6 is my turn to be at Walmart at the kettles for the Salvation Army. The other thing I wanted to mention, I was at yesterday at Robert's Ladies Wear in Woodstock, not buying a gift certificate for my wife or anything. I couldn't buy her anything. I'd have to buy her a gift certificate. But I was buying a copy of the Dasso 50th Anniversary Cookbook, which is now out. And it's a wonderful collection cookbook. It's $25, so it'd be a great stocking stuff for a present. Buy a few of them and give them to all your nieces and nephews and whatnot. But it's a great item. It's available in Woodstock at Robert's Ladies Wear. And Dasso, of course, is a great domestic assault women's emergency center. We kind of knew it as for the longest time, fundraiser for them to mark their 50th year.
Yes, I just want to compliment what you're saying there. I know Salvation Army is having a tough time this year. I got an email yesterday looking for volunteers for even tomorrow still. And I know they've had to close up, so we have stuck around a little bit longer. Just help out if you can. Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. Just a reminder about the Woodstock Wishes, a heartfelt way to bring joy and relief to those who need it most. The Woodstock Police Service, the Woodstock Police Service Board, 1047 Heart FM, and you can make wishes come true. They will be delivering special gifts, gift cards, and more to 5 deserving families to brighten their Christmas holidays. Do you know a family living within Woodstock facing tough times? If so, check out Heart FM website at contact Heart FM for more information on how to submit a family's name. The last chance to submit, though, is tomorrow. And they will be chosen, and I think it's $1,000 a day for 5 different families. And I think that's next week, or at least before Christmas anyhow. So I think that's a really great thing. If there's anyone that you can possibly, a family that you can possibly think of, I think that if you could get that in, that would be really great. And from our home to yours, wishing everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and safe and happy holiday. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Leatherworm.
Wishing everybody a healthy and happy holiday season.
Thank you. Last but not least, Councillor Martin.
Well, not last, because you still get the final say, but just to follow up on Councillor Tate, if you are looking for some baking, the mayor of Blandford Blenheim is the 4th house on the right as you go through Drumble. I won't say north, south, east, west. You'll have to figure that out. You might have to knock on multiple doors, but he does make a mean apple pie. I would echo the rest to say a very restful and peaceful holiday season for all of staff and council and for our community as a whole. This has been a heavy week for budgets, not just here, but across the street at the county. And I'm pleased with where we've landed at both sides of the street. And just finally, I will say, because this has come up quite recently, when we approved the community grants, it was raised that our policy hasn't been updated in some time. So Wednesday, the granting committee is meeting to take a look at that policy and bring forward some recommendations to council on what an updated policy might look like. So looking forward to seeing that group. And I do wish you all a very happy and restful holiday.
Thank you. Yes, to the Luddington family, thoughts and prayers are going out to you right now. For not only Ron's passing, Ron was a great man. I had hundreds of conversations with him, and yes, I was really glad to see the park named and him being alive to see that, because that did mean the world to somebody that did contribute a lot to this city. But also their in-law family members, they've lost somebody else. And to the Mitchell family, we're thinking of you as well. They've lost Terry and another great guy, volunteer firefighter for a very, very long time, probably 20, 30 years, and was very active in the community, and thinking of that family as well. Winter weather is here. Please drive slow. If you see snow, go slow. As a saying my mom would always tell me before leaving the house. And I think of that every single time I see it snowing or I hop in my truck to go somewhere. So thinking of you, Mom. Slow down, take your time. Yes, we're going to start getting some snow complaints. Please be patient. Be a helping neighbor. Help your neighbor out, especially if you've got a snow blower. It goes a long way. Doesn't really cost that much, and just be a good neighbor. Over the holidays, I hope you do get to spend some time with your loved ones and family and friends. Cherish that. Think of all those that don't have somebody. And if you can, if you know them, reach out. This is a tough time for a lot of people as well for the other reasons. We've touched on, please volunteer. There's lots of great organizations still looking for some help. Salvation Army and Operation Sharing are a couple that quickly come to mind. Always looking for good people. You don't have to give money, you can give some time, and sometimes that's worth more. So with that, Merry Christmas from my family to yours. Happy holidays. And I guess we won't see you again till middle of January. With that, I'll call the vote to adjourn. Looking for an adjournment. Sorry. All those in favor? Oh, Councillor Schattenberg, seconded by Councillor Wismer. Van Meer, it's been a long day. All those in favor? We are adjourned. Sorry, everybody. Good night.